Imagine this, Hazel. If I was rich, I'd buy a remote, windswept castle in Scotland.
Oh, JD, it's if I were rich, WERE, always were.
And I say was. And I am a native speaker. A real, living, breathing one.
So am I. And you're still wrong, every single time.
All right, you caught us. This is Mr. and Mrs. Oxford. I'm JD.
And I'm Hazel. And yes, that little linguistic skirmish you just eavesdropped on, that's our kitchen, most Tuesday mornings, right over the coffee pot.
It is. And it perfectly sets the stage for today's episode, which is all about conditionals and that tricky little word, would. This is the grammar that not only trips up advanced learners, but, as you heard, causes genuine, spirited arguments between native speakers.
But here's the magic. Once these click into place, your English transforms. It sounds dramatically more natural, more nuanced. Last week, we hinted at a topic that even very advanced learners struggle with. And yes, something JD and I truly argue about at home. This is it.
We're diving deep into conditionals, specifically when to use would, the infamous were versus was debate, and why even fluent speakers get tangled up.
So, if you've ever found yourself saying, if I would go, or you're constantly second-guessing, if I was you versus if I were you, then this episode is precisely for you.
Stick around, because by the end of this, you won't just know the rules. You'll understand the feeling behind how native speakers use conditionals, and that, truly, changes everything, right? So, let's quickly set the stage. Conditionals is a big umbrella term. There are 4 main types, but today, we're laser-focused on the ones that cause the most head-scratching. We're tackling the second conditional, the third conditional, and of course, our personal favorite, the great were versus was showdown.
Bring it on, JD. Let's kick off with the second conditional. What's the scoop?
Okay? Picture this. The second conditional is all about imaginary situations. Things that aren't true right now, or things that are wildly unlikely to happen. Think daydreams, wishful thinking. The structure is if plus the past simple, and then would plus the base verb. Simple enough, right?
Absolutely. So for example, if I won the lottery, and boy, if I were to win it, I would travel the world. I haven't won it, sadly, so it's a beautiful, imaginary little thought bubble.
Or, if we lived in Paris, we would speak French like pros. We don't live in Paris. We live in Oxford. It's pure imagination.
And here's the first tripwire, the one that catches so many learners out. The word would only goes in the main clause, not in the if clause. This is absolutely crucial.
This is it. This is where we hear the most common mistake. Listen to this. If I would have more time, I would learn the piano. To a native speaker, that sounds off. Very, very off. It's like a scratch on a record.
Because would does not belong in that if part. The correct, smooth-sounding version is, if I had more time, I would learn the piano. Past simple in the if clause, would in the result. See how it flows?
Try it with us. Take a breath. If I had more time, I would learn the piano.
If I had more time, I would learn the piano. Good. And the reason this mistake happens is totally logical. You're thinking about a hypothetical future, so would feels right everywhere. But English, in its quirky wisdom, just doesn't work that way.
English is famously uncooperative like that.
It really is. So, remember that golden rule. Would lives in the main clause, not the if clause. Stick that in your mental toolkit. Now, are we absolutely ready for the main event? The rumble in the jungle?
Oh, Hazel, I was born ready. Let's do it.
At if I were you versus if I was you. This isn't just a regular argument in our house. It's practically a linguistic civil war. It divides linguists, teachers, and native speakers across the globe.
Traditionally. And when I say traditionally, I mean the old school textbooks, the formal, classical rule. The subjunctive mood demands were for all persons in hypothetical if clauses. So, if I were rich, if she were taller, if he were here, it screams imaginary.
Exactly. That's what I was drilled on in school. Were is the gold standard of subjunctive. It's the signpost saying, hey, this isn't real, it's contrary to fact.
And I totally get that. I do. But here's the thing. In everyday, real world, spoken British English, and this is key, is everywhere. Everywhere. If I was you, I'd grab a coffee. If she was here, she'd know exactly what to say. You hear this from educated people, from native speakers all the time.
They do. I'm not going to sit here and pretend they don't. Fine.
See? Progress. But here's where I plant my flag. There is a definite, palpable difference in register. Were sounds more polished, more considered, more, well, correct. It's what you'd hear in a formal speech or read in a finely crafted essay.
Whereas was, it's like slipping on your favorite comfy trainers. It's casual, it's conversational, it's what you say over a pint with friends. For a learner, understanding both gives you a whole spectrum of expression.
That I will absolutely agree with. For any English learner out there, the honest, unvarnished truth is this. If I were you is your safe harbor. It's always correct. In a job interview, an academic paper, a formal conversation, were will never, ever lead you astray.
And was, might, raise a tiny, almost imperceptible eyebrow in those ultra-formal settings.
So our recommendation, if you're aiming for absolute correctness and confidence, learn were, use were, own were. And then, when you hear native speakers casually drop a was, and you will hear it constantly, don't panic. It's not wrong. It's just them being a bit relaxed.
And honestly, the fact that you know both, and you understand that subtle stylistic difference, that's not just advanced English. That's native speaker level awareness. That's what we're aiming for.
Exactly. Right. Let's shift to the third conditional, because this one is where even B2 and C1 learners sometimes struggle to untangle the past.
The third conditional is all about the past. It's for imaginary situations that didn't happen. Think about what might have been. The structure is if plus past perfect. So had plus the past participle, then would have plus the past participle.
For example, if I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. The reality? I didn't study hard enough. I didn't pass. It's done. It's in the past. And it's a pure fantasy now.
Or, if we had left earlier, we wouldn't have missed the train. Classic, isn't it? We didn't leave early. We missed the train. A timeless regret.
Now, this is where contractions become incredibly important for sounding natural. Listen to how this slides in fast, spoken English.
If I'd studied harder, I would have passed. That I would have. Woe, U-L-D-V-E. Native speakers almost never use the full would have in casual speech. It sounds stiff.
I would have. She would have. They would have. And the if clause contracts too. If I'd known means if I had known. If she'd been there means if she had been there.
These contractions are the difference between sounding like you're reading from a textbook and sounding genuinely fluent. Both are grammatically correct, of course, but the contracted version is how we truly speak.
Right? And here's the quick rehook for any of you who are just catching up. We're deep diving into conditionals. Would, were versus was, and how to sound effortlessly natural. These are the structures that truly separate intermediate English from genuinely fluent English. Don't go anywhere.
Now, there's one more crucial mistake we need to talk about, and it's particularly common with the third conditional. This is the dreaded would have in the if clause problem.
It's very similar to our second conditional issue. Some learners will say, if I would have known, I would have called you. And once again, that would have, in the if clause, just grates on a native ear. It feels clunky, wrong.
The correct version, the one that sings, is, if I had known, I would have called you. Past perfect in the if clause. Would have in the main clause. Nice and clean.
Now, interestingly, and this is a genuine regional quirk, in some informal American English dialects, you do hear, if I would have known. But in British English? No. It's very jarring. Almost painful.
So our rule stands firm. Would and would have belong in the main clause. Never ever in the if clause. Got it?
Let's do some real-life examples now. Dialogue style. Hazel, give me a sticky situation.
Okay, you hypothetically forgot our anniversary.
I did not forget our anniversary. This is pure fiction.
Hypothetically, JD, work with me.
Right. Hypothetically. If I forgot our anniversary, you would be furious, absolutely incandescent with rage. Second conditional. A present hypothetical.
Present imaginary situation. Correct. Now take it back in time. Make it past.
If I had forgotten our anniversary, you would have been furious. Third conditional. Past imaginary. A bullet dodged, hypothetically.
Also correct. And what would you say to express advice in this truly terrible situation?
If I were you, I'd write it in the calendar in indelible ink. Subjunctive were. Second conditional advice structure. Textbook perfect, Hazel.
Gold star, JD. See? He does know the grammar, when he chooses to.
I know the grammar. I just occasionally choose personality.
He chooses chaos.
Now, one more structure that's worth knowing. Mixed conditionals. These are quite advanced, but once you know them, they're incredibly powerful for painting complex pictures.
This is where you mix a past if clause with a present result. For example, if I had taken that job in London, I would be living there now. The if clause is past perfect. Had taken, because it refers to a past decision. But the result, would be living, is present, because it's about the current situation.
If she had listened to her doctor, she wouldn't be in hospital now. Past decision. Present consequence. See how they blend?
These come up naturally in conversation all the time. If I'd studied Spanish at school, I'd be fluent by now. You see how it works? A past regret leading to a present reality.
Once you start hearing these, you'll notice them everywhere. In films, conversations, podcasts. And now you'll know exactly what's happening.
Right. Let's do a quick recap before we get to this week's challenge.
Second conditional, imaginary present or future. If I had more time, I would learn the piano. Past simple in the if clause. Would plus base verb in the main clause.
Third conditional, imaginary past. If I had studied harder, I would have passed. Past perfect in the if clause. Would have plus past participle in the main clause.
The big shining rule. Would and would have go in the main clause. Never, ever in the if clause.
Were versus was. If I were you is formal, always safe, always correct. If I was you is common in informal spoken British English, but use it with caution in formal settings. As a learner, stick with were for confidence.
Mixed conditionals, a past if clause with a present result. If I had taken that job, I would be there now.
And finally, contractions make you sound fluent. I would have, I'd, if I'd known. Use them in your speaking to sound like a natural.
Right. Now for our weekly listener challenge. This week, we're giving you a little linguistic puzzle, a chance to really embed these conditionals in your own world.
We want you to unlock a piece of your past, a dream for your present, and a hypothetical alternative reality, all using the grammar we've talked about today.
Here's the mission. Craft 3 specific sentences about your own life.
1. A second conditional, about a current imaginary situation, maybe a dream, a wish, or something that's just not true right now. For example, if I lived in England, I would drink proper builder's tea every single morning.
2. A third conditional, about a past regret or a road not taken. Something that didn't happen. Like, if I had started learning English earlier, I would have been much more confident at school.
And finally, 3. A mixed conditional. This is about how a past decision shapes your present reality. For instance, if I had moved abroad 10 years ago, I would be speaking 3 languages fluently by now.
Make them deeply personal. Make them resonate with your life. That's the secret to making this grammar truly stick.
So, take a moment, dig deep into your own story, and post your 3 conditional sentences in the comments below. We genuinely read every single one.
Seriously, every comment. And we'll highlight the best examples for everyone to learn from.
And if you're not quite sure if your sentence is perfectly formed, post it anyway. That's how we learn. We'll guide you in the comments.
One quick thing before we go. If this episode helped you, sharing it is the single best thing you can do for us. Send it to a friend who's learning English.
Leave us a review if you're listening on a podcast platform. It genuinely makes a huge difference for a small channel like ours.
And subscribe if you haven't already. We're on YouTube at Mr. and Mrs. Oxford. New episodes every week.
Now, next week.
Next week, we're going into territory that I think is genuinely one of the most underrated parts of English fluency, and something our listeners have actually been asking us about for a while.
We're talking about reported speech, not just the grammar, but how native speakers actually use it in conversation, how it changes meaning, and why getting it wrong can make you sound like you're reading from a legal document.
She said she was tired, versus she told me she was tired. Sounds simple, but there's a lot going on underneath. We're going to get into all of it.
That's next week on Mr. and Mrs. Oxford. Until then, keep practicing, keep making mistakes, and don't let JD tell you was is always fine.
It is always fine.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you next week.